All right, looks like we got both runners on the file select screen. So we're going to get a countdown going here in just a second, and we'll get started. Alrighty. And we're off to the races.
So Nerf's PB is a, did you say a 53 now?
A 53-31, yeah. And Tipu also has a non-SRC PB of an hour and 3 minutes. So we're looking at almost exactly a 10-minute difference in PBs between the runners right now.
I think that's actually pretty average for the races so far.
Yeah. And for a category like this, I mean, this first round is sort of intended to be pretty disparate in terms of time. This is a category that can lose you absolutely gigantic chunks of time, though. Like, there are sections that are 2 to 3 minute deaths, depending on how late it happens. All right, we got Nerf dropping into King's Pass and Tipu right behind. Pretty standard stuff. If people have been watching the other matches, King's Pass, pretty routine. Players just gonna make their way through as quick as they can, be moving along the way. Nothing really too catastrophic that can happen here right at the beginning. I would guess like the worst thing that could happen is you get hit like 3 times on the Gruzzer drop, but even then, you know, you can take 3 seconds and heal, so.
Yeah, it's actually a realistic consideration when you're doing races, is healing on the first segment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that'll be something to look out for, what kinds of safety strats the players are going to go for.
Yeah, there are quite a few safety benches throughout the run that I've been paying attention to specifically because they, most of them only lose a few seconds to get, and if you save minutes, then it's going to be worth it.
Right. Yeah, like I fully expect both runners to take the King's bench after Wings before going to Hornet 2. Maybe the Camp bench as well, but...
Yeah, the Watcher's Spire bench is another one that you can get in multiple different segments, like on the way to Isma's or on the way into Soul Sanctum as well.
All right. Coming up on the Aspid room, Nerf going for the bottom strat spike kill. Okay, doesn't get it. And Tipu as well, interesting. That's definitely... that I'm aware of, fewer players go for the bottom platform compared to the top.
Yeah, definitely. I think the top is generally, people find it a bit more consistent. But Nerf backed that up really well, even though he only got one of them.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the bigger thing in that room. Obviously, double spike kill is like optimal, but if you just get a single and then quickly 3 pogos or hits, you're not really losing a lot of time. What you got to watch out for is when one of them just sort of flies off into nowhere land on you.
Yeah, and you're seeing Nerf at 2 health as well here. I would kind of like to see him heal, although maybe he won't.
Yeah, 2 should be fine through here. I would expect to see a heal now that he's at 1. Hopefully. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, 2 HP is pretty safe. There's not really anywhere that can like wombo combo you with a double hit. But Nerf got kind of beat up on the Gome room. I think got a little bit of that sticky wall happening, and the Vengefly beat him up.
Yeah, and that heal has actually kind of equalized this now. Nerf is barely ahead, a few seconds.
Yeah, very, very, very close here. Which is pretty standard for the first split through VS. There's not a ton of time you can lose. There's not a ton of time you can gain. The tricks that you can do, you know, double spike, statue pogo, stuff like that, save pretty minimal time. I think green path is when potentially we're going to start seeing some separation happen, if it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Between the fireball skips, possible bad RNG like on the Moss Knights, and also Hornet, there's a lot of time to lose in green path.
Yeah, definitely.
And even some deaths, potentially. I think we've seen some green path deaths already.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I'd never died to the Moss Knights in a run. If you get the bad RNG and have to wait, it's real easy for the close guy to just sort of beat you up in the meantime.
All right, so just coming up here, we're going to see a little bit of an RNG gate, I guess, with this Balder.
Yeah, the Balder can spit. It's a 50-50 to spit a small Balder or a projectile, and it's 50-50 each time. So you can potentially lose a lot of time if it's feeling very rude, or, you know, save some time if you get the first spit, which it looks like Nerf got a first spit. I didn't count how many Tipu got.
Tipu was first as well.
First as well. Okay, that's good. That's what you like to see in a race.
I like this bench as well from Tipu. It's not necessary there because you get saved by the eventual spirit pickup, but he lost 2 health, and it's very fast to sit on the bench. I think 2 seconds maybe. So
yeah, absolutely. And that feels like one of the biggest considerations in these races. You know, I know some people just do the like, I'm just going to run it like normal, do nothing different, but some of the, you know, quick heals and stuff like that, you're losing 2 seconds, maybe 3 in some spots, and in exchange, you're just sure that you're not going to lose minutes.
yeah, also something else to take in mind when comparing these two runners is that now that they have Vengeful Spirit, how you collect your soul it can make a big difference between kind of top runners and maybe those a bit further down the leaderboard. It's how efficiently you gather your soul and where you use it.
Yeah, for sure. And we did see the Balder quick kill there. Nerf got it. It looked like Tipu came back to the left a little too soon and had to shoot a second fireball, but that's not a huge deal because the way the soul collection numbers work out, you kind of want that extra fireball for the skip anyway, which means if you do miss the Balder quick kill, you've got another shot loaded up nice and easy. All right, Tipu coming up to...
Actually killing the squid here, that's a bit of a weird choice.
Oof. Yeah, that's... Okay.
All makes it in one, that's...
Yeah, I got it with a single. Yeah,
I think he might be a bit nervous there, messing up that backup like that.
Yeah, the first hit looked pretty intentional. I'm wondering if Tipu just wanted to collect the soul and was like, I'm just going to get it the second try. Because killing the squid and then just doing, you know, the normal fireball skip is slightly faster than doing the pogo off. But also you run the risk of if you miss it again, now you either have to get it with one fireball or you got to collect soul from the birds in the room before, which is very slow.
Yeah, and unfortunately Tipu missed the second one as well. And he tried to back it up in the same way with a single, but didn't manage that either.
Yeah, I find the single on that last fireball skip really hard. Something about that ceiling that you can bonk on. The middle fireball skip, the really important one that saves a ton of time. Getting that in one is tough but doable if you're in a pinch and you really have to. And look like clean Moss Knights from Nerf. And Tipu got the double on the single Moss Knight, which is good.
So the strategy Nerf is trying to show off here against Hornet is just to kind of back her into the corner and keep her staggered as much as possible. You really don't want her to jump around too much.
Yeah, and that is a little bit RNG. Hornet can do a small jump and a big jump. If Hornet does the small jump, there's a perfectly consistent way to just keep her stuck in the corner. If she does the big jump, she's going to get over you. So you just got to kind of roll with it. But pretty clean fight. That looked like a, 8 something? 8-10-ish on the kill?
Yeah, I think it was like an 808 on the pickup, something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good time.
He has pretty low geo though on Nerf screen. 306. That's I might be worried if I was him.
Yeah, luckily, so the geo routing in this category is interesting because there's, with the new route, the 800 for dash slash isn't that tight. It's really how much you end up having to do for King's Station afterwards that gets a little tighter.
That's very true, actually.
But the upside is after that, the geo is completely free. So once we get to a certain point in the round, the runners can kind of just put it out of their brain and not worry about it.
All right, Tipu looks almost exactly a minute behind Mothwing Cloak there.
Yeah.
So you're seeing already what you were saying about Green Path having a lot more opportunity to lose or save time for the runners?
For sure. There's just so many little tricks that, I mean, we saw Tipu had to do the backup for the fireball skip, and it's just, those tricks are pretty technical. Even when you've put a ton of hours into the game, you can still miss fireball skips and stuff, and the backups just, they lose a lot of time. Nerf is coming up here on Explosion Pogo. Gets it first try.
I was so offended watching Murray's race the other day. He doesn't even do Murray Pogo himself.
I didn't catch that part of it to see if Murray went for it at all. Or did they just do like bog standard?
Yeah, he just does the normal setup.
That's a bummer. Yeah, there's a couple different ways to do the explosion pogo. There's like a really fancy one with a damage boost that saves a very, very small amount of time, but it looks incredibly cool. And that was a really good claw split from Nerf. Just under 10, it looked like.
Yeah, he had a little bit of trouble with the Mantis Pogo there, but is experienced enough to kind of wait around for them to be in a good position and then try again.
Yeah, and that's, these first few splits in the tournament really are just super technical, which can be really punishing and lose you a lot of time. You know, you look at the Mantis Pogo, like we saw Nerf do a really good backup and you lose very minimal time. But if you're a little less experienced, or if they get kind of out of your control, and you have to go all the way around, you're seeing here Tipu have a little more trouble wrangling the mantises, and makes the decision to just cut the losses, go around. But I mean, you can see how long of a walk that was. Going around loses you a lot of time.
Yeah, although that difference in experience might not last for the whole race, because Nerf is, I think, primarily an 90% runner, so the first segments of the run are very familiar to him. But after that, it might get a bit more spotty and a bit closer between them.
Yeah, that's been something really interesting to watch in this tournament. We've had so many people come in and learn the category, myself included, who had never run it before. And so you'll see these times when you're looking at people's splits, or just when you're watching the races, where they'll have these really tight, super optimized early games. And then, a lot more variance later in the run with segments that, you haven't put several hundred hours of any percent practice into.
Oh, that's an unlucky Shade Fireball from Nerf, right as he's about to go and do the pogo.
Yeah, luckily managed to recover it. That's definitely the worst time to get it. Because if you have to readjust and the shade gets too far from where it spawns, it'll go back, and then you have to go leash it again.
And also looking at Nerf's Geo, he's a little bit under that 200 mark that you really would like to see here. So I'm kind of curious if he'll take things a bit slower in this next room just to gather the Geo.
Yeah, we've seen a runner or two throughout this race. There are two sets of husks in City. So this first one here, and then that pair just outside of King Station that I think most people kill, but I've seen a few runners not kill them when they're better on Geo or just forget. But with how low he is, Nerf definitely just wants to kill everything in the way. Tipu, on the other hand, has 227 after Shaman, so it's looking really good on Geo.
And like you said about King Station, if you have a bit extra at //, you're not losing time for that extra, because it'll save you time for collection for King Station. So it's being a bit safe is much better than being sorry here.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're high on Geo, the worst thing that happens is you get to not kill a few husks on your way back from Sanctum. Whereas if you're low, you start having to kill enemies that are really out of your way.
Tipu unfortunately got the Shade Fireball as well, but he also had a good recovery for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, and Nerf off to collect //. This is a pretty cool segment, I think, kind of subtly. Hoppers are one of the few enemies in Hollow Knight that are like actually consistent. Most enemies are like RNG with their spawn or in their behavior, but this is one of the few rooms where if you come in and do the same thing consistently, it's going to work every time. Which for speedrunners is really nice, that you don't have to worry about like, oh, where did the hoppers spawn and what are they going to do? They're always in those spots. The Primal was a little mean to Nerf, but
he had a pretty efficient saw route there with the fireballs on the hoppers.
Yeah, and 816, plenty. So we've reached dash slash, which I would say is sort of the defining feature of this category. It really breaks some things wide open, particularly in Sanctum, but just in general, this is the category I think that really most shows off all of the things that you can do with nail arts on 1221.
Yeah, something I really like about kind of seeing a lot of people running this category and putting their minds to optimizing it is that over time the use of nail arts has really expanded in this category. People using them for movement in new places.
Yeah, I know one of the ones I'd never seen before was the spike tunnel into Ismas. Using dash slash for that was definitely something new I learned after like seeing this category.
Yeah, that one's so cool as well.
That was a good time to heal from Nerf. Definitely one of the things you kind of learn doing runs, even outside of tournament setting, is, you know, sometimes you get hit, things happen, is what it is. You learn those spots that are like, you can get a quick heal in without losing any time, which is mostly elevators, but there's some spots where you're like waiting for a door to open or something. Oof. Tipu taking a lot of hits on that second row of hoppers. Interesting that they chose not to kill any of them.
Yeah, that was curious. I wonder if that was a choice because he got low on health, or if he just prefers collecting that geo later on.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, it might be a differing level of familiarity with the geo routing. They might have saw 800 after the first row and just been like, okay, I'm good, done. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that works out with the geo after Sanctum.
And it looks like Tipu now has a difference about a minute and 40 seconds behind Nerf. I think the having to go around on Mantis Pogo lost a bit of extra time from that.
Yeah, for sure. And Nerf just picked up Shade Soul. You saw the dash slash lever skip into the Elegant Key Room in Sanctum. It's hard to overstate how insane of a sequence break that is. Shade Soul is a huge damage upgrade. It's literally double the damage of our Fireball. And normally, to get that, you would have to get the Shopkeeper's Key in Crystal Peaks and then buy the Elegant Key for 800 Geo, which would then require you to either get the Lantern or dive. So you'd either have to revisit Sanctum, or you'd have to somehow come up with 2,600 Geo for Lumafly Lantern plus the Elegant Key, which is crazy slow.
And Nerf showed off the power of it just there with a really fast kill on the Soul Warrior fight.
Yeah. Yeah, in addition to dealing double damage, the Shade Soul also has a much, much larger hitbox, which really helps with getting doubles on enemies.
It's interesting, something to note about your point about knowing where to heal. Tipu healed at the start of that room there, and then opened the lever to open the door, and then just waited at the door. Whereas if someone who's a bit more experienced might, remember that the door is coming up, hit the lever, heal at the door, and use that downtime.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting when Tipu was coming up Watcher's Spire. He got pretty bad luck from the flying enemies. They were sort of just in the way, bullying him. In that spot, I might have liked to see going just over to the Spire bench. It loses a little bit of time, but then you're not going to have to spend that time healing. And, you reset those enemies so they're not going to be in your way anymore.
Yeah, I think that bench is a really good option for these kind of races. Maybe the reason why people don't get it is because they know they have a bench relatively close in King Station anyway, but I think
Yeah.
it's still worth it considering that.
And Nerf picks up dive here after a pretty good Soulmaster fight. Came in with 3 HP, took 1 hit. Soulmaster with Shade Soul is really not a particularly scary fight. Sanctum the area is, in my opinion, much scarier than the actual boss. So it's a lot more about just how fast you can execute.
Tipu unfortunately missed a double on that Soul Warrior fight, or that would have actually been a pretty fast one.
Yeah, and it ended up sort of double costing, because not only did the fight get slower, but then in continuing the fight, Tipu got hit again. So I'm interested to see if they're going to heal before the Soulmaster fight. Oh, whew. Tipu giving me a heart attack. That Spell Twister was a giant jerk and spawned in the way of that soul bucket. All right, yeah. I like 1 heal here.
And Nerf is actually looking very healthy on Geo. I don't know how he got that much. Maybe just lucky Geo drops from all the mistakes in that room.
Yeah, I think also they did get the full amount from that first Spell Twister in Sanctum, which you don't always get, depending on, how he teleports and stuff.
Yeah, very true. He can kind of dive very far on the left side of that room and sort of force you to choose between going up as soon as possible or going back over to the left to collect all the Geo.
Yeah. Tipu had a very scary Soulmaster fight there for a second, was on 1 health, but got through phase 1, took the heal. Should be pretty good here. And on Nerf's side, we see making his way to King Station, has the required 309 Geo, and like I mentioned earlier, once you have that 300 for King Station, Geo is out of your brain for the rest of the run. Everything else after that, you don't have to worry about, so.
So now from Nerf, for the next few minutes, he's not going to have the opportunity to bench because you want to keep that bench in the Watcher's Spire to go back to fight Watcher Knights later on. So he's going to have to keep taking those opportunities to heal where he can throughout these Crystal Peak and Dreamnail sections.
Yeah, this is the first. A Sanctum Death is also probably a few minutes, but the C Peak split is probably the first one where basically any death is going to be pretty catastrophic. At best, you die before Crystal Heart and you lose like 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And at worst, you die in the D-Dark room and you lose like 3 and some change.
Yeah, and it's not an easy segment either. There are lots of cycles to hit in Crystal Peaks, and then there's a Dark Room on the way to D-Dark. You can get hit out by Crystal Hunters. It's it's a really dangerous segment.
For sure. One of the interesting things to watch for Nerf, and then also Tipu when he gets there, is what sorts of cycles they go for. Like you said, Crystal Peaks is very cycle based, and a lot of the rooms have options where you can take a damage tank for a slightly faster cycle, or you can avoid damage and have a ever so slightly slower cycle. And so, one, because of races, but honestly, just in general, runner preference there for, you know, how safe they want to be in segments varies a lot. Okay. And it looks like Nerf is going to be just the most safe. You see stopping for that heal there after, I think, taking an accidental hit to that crystal crawler or whatever.
He could have been trying to do damage boosting through it, but I think that was accidental, yeah.
Because it'd be interesting if he was trying to damage boost, but then also healed after, but yeah, and takes the safe cycle on that room.
I like this play. It looks like he's even if he does the damage cycle in the Crystal Heart room, he's gonna end up entering kind of the Crushes and Dark Room segment with 4 health, which is absolutely tons.
Yeah,
he's gonna feel really confident about that.
Yeah, I think my preference for the tournament in general, now obviously it varies, you know, runner skill and stuff, but given that you can take safe cycles on everything, I think I like seeing a lot of safe cycles. Excuse me. You do see Nerf take the damage boost cycle here. That's probably the most understandable damage boost to take, because that's the way you do it in any percent. So it's understandable to just say, like, I have my muscle memory for this. I don't want to learn a new setup and potentially mess it up. I'm going to take my one hit here.
Yeah, that's a very valid choice to make, especially for races. Even if it's, you know, a few milliseconds slower than taking a different damage tank, you shouldn't really be thinking about that at this point.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk I've seen in the races so far of like strategy and, you know, what benches and all this, but I think there is a lot to be said for just trusting your muscle memory and doing things as relatively normal as possible.
Happy to see Nerf save the grub here as well.
It looks like Nerf is going for the all dashes version of the Dark Room. Definitely the fastest, but also the least safe. Once you know it, it's consistent, so it's not really a big deal. But
yeah, he made it look easy as well there.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, trust me.
Yeah, there's an alternate version going through that room where you just do crystal dashes instead. That is a little bit slower, but is much, much easier to set up. All right. And we see Nerf doing the D-Dark /skip. One of those weird 1-2-2-1 things, where if you get the last hit on that crystal with /, instead of freezing you into the pickup animation, it instead keeps your momentum going, and then you slide off, take a damage boost, and you get control earlier than you would have.
Unfortunately, Tipu took 2 damage in that in the shopkeeper's key room. I think he was trying to go for the damageless lantern pogo on the right side, but unfortunately messed it up a bit.
Yeah, that room is really tough. Tipu doesn't open the lever, so they're gonna have to open that on the way back out from Crystal Heart. It does look like they're gonna go for the /skip here, which is pretty cool.
Also doing the damage tank cycle at 3 HP though, I almost would like to see Tipu heal after this, if they can spare the soul.
Yeah, you can. It looks like they have enough soul for one for free. I've also several times in races. There's a totem right there at the end. You lose a smidge of time, but that's a free heal or two. If you just want to hit that totem on the way through, if you had a bad C peaks or just took a few extra hits.
He doesn't look like he's healing though. Maybe just that confident, I guess.
Okay, this is a good spot to heal. I don't know if the not opening the lever before going to see Heart was intentional or just a mistake, but taking advantage of that, realizing, like we talked about before, you're going to have to stand there anyway. You might as well use that time to heal.
Nerf, on the other hand, is going to show just how broken D-Dark is against Watcher Knights.
Yeah, got a cool little wall cling storage off the elevator there. I don't know if the wall cling storage is faster than just a C dash, but it looks very cool, which is what really matters. So
Tipu has a really interesting strategy for that dark room. He fireballed the Crystal Hunter and did a dash strat, but he took it very slowly and just kind of considering every dash before he did it.
yeah, and that honestly makes sense. One of the things with dark rooms, because we're going to be seeing another one, is if you get hit in the dark room, you don't get the normal hazard respawn. You instead spawn at the start of the room, which is intended to be a mechanic to keep you from getting like stuck in a dark room. But for speedrun purposes, it means that hits are sort of double punishing. And that dark room in particular, even more so because there are spikes on the floor. So you can potentially take a hit and then fall into spikes, take 2 quick damage, the room gets reset, and it's just sort of everything falls apart instantaneously.
I'm actually wondering if Tipu is on PB pace right now, because he hasn't had an amazing start, but it's been deathless, it's been relatively clean. I mean, his PB is 1 hour and 3 minutes. I think this could definitely be a good run for him.
Yeah, I have to imagine this is, if it's not PB pace, it's got to be incredibly close. But I would guess Tipu is currently on PB pace. Like you said, there have been some snags here and there, but deathless, and has mostly just kind of sort of been able to keep going through. On Nerf's end, one, picking up that geo chest. I mentioned earlier that like the geo route stops being relevant, and it's basically exclusively because of that geo chest. That 655 more than pays for everything we need to do for the rest of the run. So we grab that chest and then it just sort of all works out after that, which is nice.
Also, he's coming up to possibly the hardest section of the run right here, the Isma's Skip's Gauntlet.
Yeah, it's one of those things, a lot of people have said that like all skills is sort of the excuse me, easiest like first category to learn, which I would agree with, except the Isma skips are pretty tough to learn. And unlike QGA in any percent where you have a backup to do something else, there's no backup for this. You have to do the skips or you don't get to keep going. Oof. And we see Nerf going for the dash slash version, having a little difficulty with it. but gets it there after a few heals.
Yeah, the dash slash version is a bit more precise in where you need to jump off of the wall, but I find it easier. Maybe he's tried a few different versions and he prefers this one, so.
Yeah, it's basically just preference for, you know, how you... Ooh. Okay. This is a really precarious position for Nerf because we were just talking about Geo. You do need that 655 Geo. And one of the easiest ways to completely brick your all skills run is to die in Ismas and then die trying to get back. Because now all of a sudden you're 600 Geo short and there is not a good place to get that.
Yeah, thankfully he recovered that final acid skip really, really well.
Yeah.
Looked like he's pretty confident about his lineup there. Meanwhile, I think Tipu is about 2.5 minutes behind, by the way.
Yeah. Tipu did make it through Watcher Knights, though, which is good. Went down to 1 health. It's joked that, you know, that fight is a glorified cutscene because of D-Dark, but honestly, like, you can still get hit weird on bounces. If they start rolling around, they can catch you out of position. It's definitely not free. Even if it's D-Dark makes it much easier than the any % version of the fight.
Yeah, I think maybe a lot of the, I don't know, words of wisdom about this category come from people who are any % runners first, maybe. So that's the kind of opinion that they have.
Yeah, for sure. So Nerf is heading down into Basin, dealing with the Maulurks. You can avoid damage on all but one of them if you move consistently. But you can get clipped like Nerf did there. And it looks like he's gathering soul for a heal, which I really like. Potentially a heal, maybe just for the fight.
That was a really clean Morlux, though.
Yeah.
Only gained that 1 RNG hit.
There's another safety strat here that, to be fair, I don't expect that many players to do. There's a shortcut wall you can break to get back to this area that if you feel like you're going to die to Broken Vessel, you could open it ahead of time. I don't expect to see a lot of players do it because it is pretty slow. And Broken Vessel is not the hardest fight in this run, but it is an option.
He can be deceptively difficult at times. Once you get him locked down, you can stun lock him very consistently, but he has very unpredictable movements before that point. He can jump around the room, jump on top of you, especially if you go in with 2 or 3 health. I could see people taking the breakable wall there.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of that, like you said, because that Maulurk RNG potential hits, you know, you could be coming into that fight with 2 health. All right, we see Tipu get all the acid skips in the spike tunnel, which you love to see because it's very time consuming if you have to come back down here.
Sadly, that's not enough quite yet to equalize things, but it is really nice to see Tipu succeed at that, because if either of these runners got walled there and stuck there for multiple minutes, it would make this race a lot less close than it already is. So I like that.
Yeah, and like on an individual level, I think Tipu took got the spike tunnel second try and the other acid skips first try, like I gotta feel like Tipu's on pace for a pretty real PB at this point, which honestly is like just as good or potentially better than winning the race. Is just, you know, getting a big PB in a race scenario is super cool.
Yeah, that's very true. Especially because this is the first race for both of these runners, so getting a race PB your first time, that's a big confidence boost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we mentioned the players' PBs at the start, but to go over them again, NerfIrelia's is a 53.31, Tipu's is a 103. And both of those PBs have happened since seeding for the tournament happened. So those are very, very recent PBs for both of them. I think when I asked, Tipu said it was like literally yesterday.
Alright, so Nerf here coming up on another quite difficult section of the run, the Hornet 2 fight, and taking a very valuable bench there. Your last bench, if you don't take that, is Ancient Basin, so that, you know, that's a few minutes that this bench saves if you do die, and he's ahead, so it's a really, really good choice.
Yeah. I think it's player preference on whether you take the camp bench or the King Station bench. The King's bench is more of a walk if you die to Hornet, but the upside is it takes basically 0 time. The camp bench is slower, but if you die, you're right there. So in this case, I do like the camp bench a little more because, like I said, Nerf's ahead, and at this point, it's just risk mitigation unless they really want to go for a PB here.
Tipu actually took that Ancient Basin shortcut that you were talking about.
Oh, nice.
He also went for a little bit of a skip before Broken Vessel that Nerf didn't, I don't think. There's like a little dash jump off the wall that can be pretty finicky, but Tipu actually got it second try.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't go for that at all, just because it's a little finicky, it's a little tight. You need to get a dash cancel jump off the wall, which preserves dash momentum into the jump. And it saves, if you get it first try, it saves like 2 seconds or something. And if you miss it basically at all, it doesn't save time. So...
Nerf had a pretty nice Hornet 2 fight there. She can be a bit annoying with throwing parries at you, you know, jumping around, trying to get away from you, not giving you many double hit opportunities, but he had a pretty clean fight. I think ended it on 3 health, which is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, for sure. Something that, you know, I think Hornet 2 is, I would agree, the hardest boss fight of this run. Something that doesn't get as much talked about because people are like, oh, this, you know, the boss fights are a little easier in this than some of the other categories, is the boss fights in this category all feel like they have really, really high variance. You know, you've got Watcher Knights where if they roll and you can't D-Dark them, you lose a ton of time. You've got Hornet where if she parries and jumps out of your fireballs, you lose a ton of time. You've got THK where if he parries and does a bunch of dashes, you lose a ton of time. So this run has a lot of variance in its boss fights, which makes the movement sections all the more critical that you're really tight and consistent through there because you need that time save.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think for the boss fights, it's often emphasized how much easier they are than the any percent ones, but you know, that's maybe a bit debatable actually. they're definitely, you have more resources to work with, but that doesn't always equal easier fights.
Yeah. And more resources can also mean harder execution because you have more options. Nerf there taking a slightly different route on the way up through King's Pass, going through the Fury Room. Is that faster than just continuing the C dash?
No, I don't think it is, actually.
Okay. I'm definitely in the crowd that learned this category for the tournament, but I was pretty sure you want to just keep your C dash going into there. But showing off that secret Fury Room.
Alright, Fubtrick, if you're curious about the category rules, all skills means in this context, it means all the nail arts, all the movement abilities, and both levels of every single spell in the game.
And for the purposes of this category, Dreamgate is not a skill.
Yeah, although I would love to make the category longer and more annoying.
Yeah. Well, it opens up a weird door for, you know, if Dreamgate's a skill, then is Awoken Dreamnail a skill, and now it's basically just true ending with extra steps.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't want to add Elder Who with VS to this route personally. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no thanks. It is interesting. I know you've been in the community a lot longer than I have. I don't know the history for, was all skills decided before Dreamgate was a thing, or was it just early on that was the vote that doesn't count as a skill?
So it a few of us decided that we would like to be able to do a category that's kind of in between 80% and true ending, and the skills that we settled on were just the things that we thought would make a fun run that wasn't too annoying to do, and then it was just, you know, enough people running it and liking it, and it became official, rather than, you know, it starting from a moderator's perspective or something.
Interesting. Yeah, I was curious because for those that are perhaps not aware or have only played Hollow Knight more recently, Dreamgate was only added in the first DLC. So potentially, you know, it could have been, you know, this didn't exist when the category started, and it would have been clunky to add it. Coming back to the race, though, we see Nerf finishing up Umu. Got the one cycle.
I need to learn that one cycle, actually. I've been putting it off.
Yeah, it's certainly not as tight as the any %2 cycle in terms of execution, but you got to learn a very specific setup. It basically works by pushing Umu through that wall with your nail, lets you get double hits out of bounds, air quotes, outside of the arena, which lets you double hit more fireballs than you would otherwise have room for.
Also, interestingly, it doesn't work on the left side of the arena.
And it is a very, if you're going for a like really good time in this category, it's a pretty important trick to learn. You're saving 20 seconds-ish from not having a second cycle, but also Umu is a really RNG-heavy boss to start with because you can get fast attacks, slow attacks, and you can get extra attacks. So cutting out a cycle also reduces the potential for more bad RNG.
Yeah, I think the most time that you can lose doubles between a 1-cycle fight and a 2-cycle fight. So yeah, you're really reducing the variance as well as kind of the absolute time.
Mm-hmm. So we see Nerf here going up to grab Great Slash. This is a really, really movement-heavy split, which is really, I think, really cool. One of the neat things about this category in general is you've got some boss splits and you've got some movement splits, where the dash, wings, C-dash, pogo movement is really technical and makes for some really, really nice optimizations.
Yeah, it's almost like a mini look at something like 106%, for example. But like, in a small package where you can actually, just sit down and do a run and not have to take the entire day.
Right. Yeah, wings, it's always been a bummer to me that any percent doesn't need wings. Obviously, it makes it faster, but wings movement in this game is so intricate and cool that I really just want more of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although it does give this category and true ending a bit of variety compared to any percent that they don't get that.
Yeah, that's true. So Tipu coming down to Umu. We'll see if they go for the 1 cycle, if they just do, sort of an any percent style 2-cycle setup, what strat they're going for. And then on Nerf's end, he's heading down to Deep Nest after picking up Howling Wraiths, which is another sort of scary segment of the run.
Yeah, this segment is really surprisingly difficult because the squits in the Howling Wraiths arena are so annoying and they can just fly all over the place and you have to follow them around. And you really want to conserve your health and your soul in this section as well because Deep Nest is going to be difficult as well.
Yeah, the squid spawns are completely consistent. So if you know the cycle for the room, which with a 53 I would assume that Nerf does, you can get, like a really consistent execution of this arena. But I mean, if you miss any hits, you definitely get into a world where things get sketchy.
That was really, really clean from him, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That was textbook for that arena. Grabs the Wraiths, which conveniently comes with a full soul refill, which will be nice because it means you don't really have to do any soul collection going down into the Mantis arena in Queen's Gardens.
Yeah, and the reason why I said that this segment coming up is quite difficult is because you go all the way through Queen's Gardens, which has some quite difficult platforming. You've got the Mantis Petra arena, and then at the end of it, you go through a few rooms in Dark Deep Nest. It's not the hardest dark rooms in the game, but you can just take some unnecessary hits there. It's very easy to hit a spike and be reset to the beginning, like you were saying earlier. It's just, not a fun section to do.
Yeah, and unlike the dark room earlier, so the Crystal Peaks dark room is basically just one short tunnel. So at least if you go back to the start of it, it's pretty quick to just hop out of the room and reset it. The Deep Nest dark room is a lot sketchier because there are, one, some breakable planks, and two, there are some enemies that can spawn in and move differently to where if you don't get, especially the first room, the Mask Maker dark room, if you don't get that the first try, it gets harder and harder on subsequent tries.
Yeah, I would honestly maybe reset the room personally.
Yeah,
If I,
for sure.
got hit by spikes in that room. Tipu, by the way, did do that any percent setup that you were talking about. It's at least a very consistent 2-cycle to get if you're not going for the 1 cycle.
Yeah, the nice thing with the any percent setup is it makes getting the dream nails very simple. The 1 cycle does segue into a 2 cycle pretty easily if you know it, but if you don't, getting the dream nails can be tough. But yeah, on Nerf side, took a hit to basically the last spike you can take a hit on in the first dark room, and so has to go all the way back.
Yeah,
So
he took the choice to reset the room there, like I was talking about, which very quick thinking there, just to make it completely consistent again.
yeah, very smart. I think I would have liked to see a heal. The dark rooms after the Mask Maker one are not as scary, especially because I know Nerf has a lot of any percent background. You can kind of let that muscle memory carry you. That said, 2 health is very scary in an area where you can take an enemy hit into spikes and just be dead instantly.
Yeah, exactly. And even this this devout that's coming up here does 2 damage if he hits you, so I wouldn't like to be too healthy, although he's done any percent, he's practiced with these enemies. I don't think he's expecting to take damage. It's still a bit uncomfortable position to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, and easy kill. If you have 6 soul, a D-Dark plus a Shade Soul is completely free. I think maybe if you mistime it and the Devout runs away from you super fast, you could miss it, but even then I think you'd get a double on the Shade Soul, so as long as you have enough soul coming into that Devout, it's pretty free. And Nerf makes it through to Hera. Given the difference in where we're at with the 2 runners now, I think the time passed for being able to Tipu being able to catch up, barring something insane. Although the deep nest area probably was a pretty decent chance if something had gone really wrong and Nerf had died in the dark room there, that would have caught up a huge amount of time for Tipu.
Yeah, Tipu, by the way, showing a little bit of unfamiliarity with some of these rooms. Maybe it's race nerves, or maybe he just, because he's quite new, he hasn't had quite so much time to, fully learn all the run, especially towards the end where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So we might honestly see the races even diverge further as Tipu gets, a little bit more out of his comfort zone, I guess.
Yeah, and specifically that great slash split is one it's easy to ignore because, like we talked about earlier, it's just movement. So it's really easy to just say like, well, I'm not going to die on this, so I don't need to practice it as much because it's not scary. But you can lose a lot of time just to movement. I think that's one of those subtle things in Hollow Knight that it doesn't feel like the difference in movement makes as much of a time difference as it does sometimes, but it really is huge.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd say that's one of the things that puts runners like Axe, Pisces, Monster so far ahead of the others. Is just they have really, really nice movement, really, really clean to watch.
Mm-hmm. Nerf with a good sibling climb there. The siblings deal double damage, so you do only have functionally 3 health there, but not too big of a problem. And coming up here to Shade Cloak, we're going to see a quit out as soon as he touches the pool. You get the item as soon as you touch it, so saving quitting out just saves time. It does have, you only see the file select screen there for a second, but the file select screen makes it look like he's loading into archives because the save screen doesn't update on hard saves, like the Hera hard save or the Shade Cloak one, which the first couple times you load in there is always a little bit of a heart attack.
Yeah, interesting anecdote about that Shade Cloak quit out, by the way. Nobody was doing it back in the day. Nobody timed it, nobody considered it. Until at one point I watched a run from someone who, just started running the game. They didn't know what they were doing, and they quit out at that point, and I thought, well, that's silly, that's not fast, and nobody does that, right? But I thought to time it just in case, and it saves 10 seconds. It's just one of those weird things where, like, just someone looking at it, with their own perspective, just finds like a little time save like that. It's quite neat.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about speedrunning is it feels like for a lot of games there's just always more to find. Even the geo routing in all skills has even been updated within the last year in a pretty significant way.
Yeah, and that was I think Pisces who had the biggest hand in that, and he was relatively new when he was making those changes to the route. So like a fresh pair of eyes really matters a lot.
Nerf with the Abyss Climb IL here.
That was a good backup there for missing that spike pogo. Recovered that really nicely.
Abyss Climb is another area where you can lose a lot of time if you just don't know the route up the room, because it sort of feels like you can go any way, but there really is a very fast route up there with all the pogos and stuff that you saw.
Yeah, exactly. And any hazard hit you take usually puts you, halfway down the rim again. So you really want to be tight on your movement there.
So Nerf heading to the end game, gonna go beat up the Hollow Knight. We'll see if Hollow Knight chooses to be nice. This is one of the heaviest RNG fights in the run, if not the most RNG heavy. You really want to be Abyss Shrieking. A Shaman Stone Abyss Shriek deals 120 damage, whereas a Descending Dark only deals 88, and a Shade Soul deals 40. But you can only really get a full Abyss Shriek in on certain attacks, and you have to hope that he doesn't, teleport out or run away from you.
Yeah, we'll see, less familiar runners going for more Descending Darks because it is your second highest damaging spell, so it's not a bad choice. But if you're really, pushing it for the time, then Abyss Shriek is what you want to be focusing on.
Yeah. As nice as the D-Dark machine is, because on 1-2-2-1, the iframes you get are so huge that, in a pinch on this fight, if you just hit D-Darks over and over again, you're basically not capable of getting hit. It is less damage. Going pretty well for Nerf so far. Taking 3 hits already, but, already in the self-stab, which is nice. And I really like this heal here.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, he takes only 1 damage from any hit that you get in on self-stab, so it's, you know, it's pretty much a free heal. And wow, he's going down to 1 health here.
Ooh, yeah, that... I mean, you can see there how scary the Abyss Shriek strats are, because you need to be so close. And, yep.
That's so close to the end of the fight as well. Yeah, that's the final scream. I think Hollow Knight must have been on, you know, tens of health, maybe. That's so unfortunate.
Yeah. Really, really unfortunate spot to take a death there, but does illustrate well, you know, how scary the Abyss Shriek strats are, you know. You got to be so close. It's easy to just take a lot of extra hits. And Tipu heading down to Abyss. Looking at the timer, I don't know the timings perfectly well, but I'm pretty confident if Tipu doesn't die to Hollow Knight, they're on PB. Like,
yeah, I think
a pretty
it's
real one.
Maybe around 5 or 6 minutes from this point. Just, you know, eyeballing it from what I remember. But
yeah. Ooh, yeah, okay. Nerf gets Scream, Skip, Skip on the second one. That jump up, shoot, spray attack is like the best one you can get for DPS, because he just stands there nicely for you to shriek him. GG to Nerf. Not a
GG.
PB, but a really good time for a race.
I mean, that's kind of on the lower end of the race times that I've seen so far. Sort of maybe middle of the pack, so I think that's a pretty good one for your first time.
For sure, and especially considering that death, you know, that was a mid 54 if Nerf hadn't taken that death.
Yeah, and just to emphasize again, a death to Hollow Knight is really, really possible, even for people who are well practiced. So it's not, you know, you could have seen any number of runners take that kind of death.
For sure. So yeah, let's watch Tipu close this one out. Getting these big C dashes on the way back, very important. Something we didn't really talk about during the run was like when you C dash versus when you dash. Anywhere that's going to be more than 3 dashes, it's going to be faster to just do a crystal dash. And these rooms are a little dark, a little cramped. So knowing the optimal places to get your C dashes in is really important and saves some time. Minute 35 ahead of PB, if not mistaken. Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty sizable PB.
I think this will make it one of the closer races as well so far.
Yeah.
If he finishes this out, you know, with like a 101, 102.
Yeah, and I mean, at the start of the race, we said, you know, there's a 10-minute difference in their PBs, but like you can see here where we're less than 5, right? Potentially. You can really close the gaps even with pretty big gaps in PBs in this category, because, you know, you take a death, that's a pretty large chunk of time, you know.
Yeah, and I think in general it might be fair to expect higher seeded players to underperform because, you know, their PBs are representative of a lot of time spent running the category, whereas lower seeds might actually overperform because, you know, their current seeding might be, you know, their second or third run ever. So, you know, lots to improve on.
Yeah, Tipu's PB in seeding was a 120. So they literally had a 17-minute PB between seeding and yesterday. You know, lots and lots of area for improvement. It looks like Nerf is off to commit some crimes. Avert your eyes, best girl fans.
Can we DQ for this? Is that?
I mean, I think that's a 10-minute penalty for sure.
Definitely.
All right. Tipu coming up to Hollow Knight. Hopefully going to bench in Dirtmouth. Yeah. So that bench is a lot faster than the Black Egg bench, even though you're walking a little bit away from where you want to go, just because you want to C-dash the entire way through Black Egg. So having to stop it, bench, and then recharge it is just really slow. So yeah, assuming a decent fight, I think Tipu's looking at like a 102-ish here. Could be a little better, could be a little worse, depends, but
I think this has been a really good race from both runners. I'd like to say it, you know, thank them for this was a really fun race to come.
Yeah, it stayed relatively close. I mean, we saw some gap emerge because of just difference in PBs and experience or whatever, but it was a really, really good race. You know, we didn't see any like, oh, someone died early to Crystal Peaks and we were 11 minutes off because of that or whatever, right? And this has been a really good fight for Tipu, like really getting good shrieks in there. Oof. Okay, and now we're into the self-stab. Yeah, I'd like to see some heals here. Just play it a little safer. Finish your fight. Unlucky. And right there with that dash back from Hollow Knight, you see what we were talking about with he can just be a jerk. You know, Tipu went for that shriek and Hollow Knight just backed out of it on him.
Even going for the extra heal there, I don't even think that's a bad choice when you're on PB pace.
Oh, and gets scream skip because of it, because of that really good attack at the end. So yeah, we're gonna definitely see a PB here from Tipu by a minute. Really good, low 102. Keeping us on our toes during that Hollow Knight fight, giving us the fear.
Gonna try and get an interview from the both. I want to see Tipu popping off about that PB, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. GG again to both runners. I mean, so we're seeing a 7-minute difference, give or take, in their times. And they had a 10-minute difference coming in. So,
I mean, I'd call that a victory for Tipu personally.
absolutely. And for those watching, we're going to see the first round is obviously the biggest gap. Future rounds are going to get even tighter and even more exciting as people with really close time start to play each other. How's it going, Tipu?
Hello, nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah, GG on the PB.
Yeah.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks. What was NerfIrelia's time?
My time was a 55:38. My PB is a 53:31, I think.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, really solid run, both of you. Yeah, it was a really good race to watch. Pretty close for most of it. Really, for a lot of the race, we were within like one large mistake, just flipping things around.
Yeah, for sure. I think if I died to the Isma skips, I think it would have been like a lot closer to end with.
Yeah, those were very, very.
Yeah, that was pretty sketch there. I think you did the
Yes.
final one on 1 health.
Very scary.
I think I got them pretty cleanly.
Oh
Yeah,
no, you
yours
did a
was
great
clean.
job, Tipu. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a second try on the spikes and then first try on both of the acids is super solid.
Yeah.
Chat asking, yeah, Tipu did PB by. Is it over a minute? I didn't know the seconds on your PB.
It's a minute and half.
Nice. That's really hype. PB in the race. Love to see it.
Yeah.
So, were you two watching your opponent during the race, or were you opting to like not watch and just do your own thing?
Yeah, I
was
had the stream
trying,
pulled up.
but it just confused me, so I needed to turn it off.
And Nerf, you said you were watching.
Yeah, I was. I think
Yeah.
Tipu, you have like basically have like all the really good fundamentals down. It's just like all these really small things. So it's like really good. Especially considered you were like what your PB was like a 120 or something before the tournament.
My yeah, I mean, I started running all skills 1 day before registration closed, so
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, that's insane.
I don't know, do you still see my stream, but I show my splits now there, so if you wanna see them.
Yeah. How do you guys feel the race went for you? Any like big mistakes? You're like, man, I wish I'd done that better, or any like super insane splits you had, or?
You can go first, Tipu.
I don't know. I had really bad early game until Crystal Peaks that I saved 30 seconds over my PB in Descending Dark Split, and that was just because of Dark Room and that stuff. And then I just got many golds, and then I needed to play THK pretty carefully because I was on 1 HP and it was really scary. But yeah, there were good splits.
Yeah, THK can be a scary fight.
Yeah.
What about you, Nerf?
I thought it went all right overall. I was really happy with Peaks. I thought that went really well. Not very happy with my Abyss climb. I practiced that for a solid 20 minutes before I started streaming, and then I just screwed it up once I got there. Unfortunate. Then dying to Hollow Knight, not so great.
Yeah, I mean, Prior to that death, though, it looked like you were on pace for like a low 54.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, for a race time, that's still really good.
Yeah, so overall, like other than THK and the ISMA skips, I'm pretty happy with this run.
Awesome. Any shout outs, thanks, etc. before we wrap it up?
Thanks to Comms, thanks to you guys for commentating the race. Thanks to SpeedGaming for allowing us to use their channel. Thanks to everybody who's worked on the tournament, and yeah, it was fun. Great.
Yeah, I have nothing more to add for that.
Cool.
All right, it was a pleasure watching you. Actually, I really enjoyed coming that. So thank both of you for competing.
Yeah, amazing race. GG again to both of you.
Yeah,
GG.
GG's.